Hey there, welcome everybody to the Week 16 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined by Michael Bullock. We are awaiting the presence of good old MF Michael Fletcher. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we'll hopefully have him back with us tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk. Week 16 of the NFL season started last night on Amazon Prime Video. It was our number 2 game of the week, and boy, howdy, did it live up to the hype and then some. It was the Denver Broncos squaring off against the Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi Stadium, and it was the Los Angeles Chargers who defeated the Denver Broncos by a score of 34-27. Chargers improved to 9-6 on the season. Broncos dropped to 9-6 on the season. And next week, the Chargers will be heading to Foxborough to take on Michael Bullock's Patriots as part of a Saturday triple header next week on the NFL Network, which we'll have more on that next week. As for the Denver Broncos, they will also be a part of that Saturday triple header. They'll be playing in the second game at 4:30 against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Playoff implications in that one as well. So quickly getting into the numbers here. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert, 23 of 31, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Gus Edwards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 14 carries, 68 yards. Hassan Haskins and Darius Davis with receiving touchdowns. Ladd McConkey, 6 catches, 87 yards. Defense with 2 sacks on the night. Joey Bosa and Bud Dupree had sacks for the Chargers. As for the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix was 29 of 40 for 263 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. Audric Estime, the rookie out of Notre Dame, 9 carries, 48 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Devon Vele and Michael Burton with receiving touchdowns for Denver. Leading receiver was Marvin Mims Jr. with 3 catches and 62 yards. Defense also recorded 2 sacks, Drew Sanders and Dondre Tillman, and an interception by Chris Abrams-Drain. So those are the schematics for that particular matchup. And big win for the Chargers, and definitely helped their playoff cause. Denver takes a bit of a hit, and I'll be honest, I had my doubts about the Chargers. I mean, especially after they got blown away by Tampa Bay last week, and Denver was playing really well as of late, but the Chargers, they got it done, and overcoming a 21-10 deficit in this one, and got the win. So Chargers definitely in good playoff positioning. We'll see what that means for Denver, and the Chargers have 2 winnable games in the next 2 weeks. They're at New England, and then they're at Vegas. Whereas the Broncos, they gotta go to Cincinnati, and then they got Kansas City coming in. So not really much more to say on that. So Michael Bullock, come on in. Big win for the Chargers last night, 34-27. And both teams are now 9-6, and this definitely helps the Chargers when it comes to the playoff positioning, whereas a bit of a hit for Denver.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this was a game that the Chargers really needed, especially like you said, coming off of a blowout loss at the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And yeah, I mean, the Broncos, they were riding high. going into this game, and people thought they were the favorites, but yeah, the Chargers, they did what they had to do and help improve their playoff chances. Well, the playoff chances for the Broncos did take a little bit of a hit. So we'll see what happens. And like you said, I mean, it should be, like you said, should be easy the rest of the way for the Chargers with the schedule with 2 games to go. So we'll see what happens with it. So but like I said, a big win for the Chargers. But a tough loss for the Denver Broncos. So we'll see what happens with both of these teams the rest of the way. So with that being said, Florio, let's get into a couple of Saturday games that we got.
Absolutely. And we move on now to our game of the week. This is the game of the week on our side of the ledger. 1 o'clock tomorrow on NBC and also streaming on Peacock. It will be the Houston Texans squaring off against the Kansas City Chiefs, Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge, and Catherine Tappan will have the call of this game. And Kansas City opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. And Kansas City leads the all-time series regular season 7-5. The last meeting was 2022 in Houston, and Kansas City won that 30-24 in overtime. Last meeting in Kansas City was week 1 of the 2020 COVID season, where Kansas City won that one 34-20. Houston's last win in Kansas City was in 2019. That was a 31-24 final. So now we get to our game of the week, and here we go. Just bear with me for a moment. All right. Of course, there will also be, in addition to this game, it's also going to include a notable Peacock alternate broadcast featuring a Madden NFL 25 animation approach, a collaboration between NBC Universal, EA Sports, and Genius Sports. Paul Burmeister, Chad Ochocinco, and Kurt Benkert will be a part of that. So if you're interested in that, you can tune into that. But let's get into the good stuff now. Houston quarterback C.J. Stroud has had a reasonably solid year overall, throwing for 3,248 yards with about a 64% completion mark and 17 touchdowns against 9 interceptions. But he only threw for 131 yards in a win over the Miami Dolphins last week, albeit with a 69% completion mark and 2 touchdowns without a pick. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are 13-1 versus the Texans 9-5, but they're only 3.5-point home favorites. Part of that is because most of their wins have been narrow. They did beat the Cleveland Browns by 14 last week, but that came with questions about the health of quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who suffered a high ankle injury. But Mahomes, who has 3,348 passing yards with a 67% completion mark and 22 touchdowns versus 11 interceptions, is set to start tomorrow, and we will see what he can do against Houston. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes ranks 18th in completion percentage at 45%, under pressure among starters, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. Meanwhile, the Texans' defensive line is 3rd in pressure rate at 38.2% and 2nd in sacks at 45%. If the Texans can force Mahomes, who is dealing with a high ankle sprain, into uncomfortable spots, Houston can position itself for an upset. The Chiefs' defense showed signs of life last week against the Browns, with 5 sacks and an improved pressure rate at 46% when it did not blitz. The Texans have given up 46 sacks, 5th most in the league, so Kansas City has a reason to believe it can disrupt Houston quarterback C.J. Stroud. The Chiefs have had 11 of their 32 total sacks come in the last 3 weeks. According to the Elias Sports Bureau, the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs are the second team in NFL history to play games on 6 different days of the week, joining the 1927 New York Yankees. A very interesting stat. What's at stake? The Chiefs can lock up the number one seed in the AFC with a win and a Buffalo loss to New England, becoming the sixth team since 2002 to clinch the top spot with at least 2 games left in the regular season. 5 of the previous 6 teams reached the Super Bowl, though none won. The FPI gives it to Kansas City, 57% going with Kansas City, and especially with Patrick Mahomes now playing, I have to go with Kansas City in this one. But would I be surprised if Houston ended up stealing this one? No, I wouldn't. But at the end, I got to go with Kansas City. My final score, 24-21. Kansas City defeats Houston. But I'll be honest, it's not an overly confident pick. It's more of a reluctant pick. But, we'll have to wait and see. But for right now, give me Kansas City 24-21. So, Michael Bullock, while we still await for MF to join us, you, of course, will serve as the Tony Romo to my Jim Nantz in this case, because this is our game of the week after all. So, of course, the big story, Patrick Mahomes, it looks like he's going to go despite the high ankle injury. And we shall see what he can do against Houston. But a lot at stake. Houston just won their division, so they're in as well. Maybe this could be a playoff preview. We don't know. It's possible. I don't know, but we'll see. But nonetheless, it's going to be all about Patrick. All eyes will be on Patrick Mahomes and how he can do despite this injury. He's going to give it a go. So as the Tony Romo to my Jim Nantz in this case, since this is our game of the week, and until MF gets here, do that thing I like. Hello, friends.
Like you said, this could be a potential playoff preview, and the eyes are going to be on Patrick Mahomes. These high ankle sprains, it's no joke. Sometimes it takes a long time to come back from these things. Sometimes you could be ready for the next game. So what's going to be interesting to see is how much mobility will Patrick Mahomes have with this high ankle sprain? Will he be able to move outside the pocket like he always does? I think what you're going to see here, Florio, you're going to see the Houston Texans defense, especially that front line. They're going to try to put relentless pressure on Patrick Mahomes and test him out to see how well he can move with that. And don't be surprised, if they have Carson Wentz ready to go just in case they have another setback. But he's tough. And the thing is, we've been hearing it, Florio. We've been hearing some people say maybe they should sit Patrick Mahomes so that way you could at least have him ready for the playoffs if you want to have a healthy Patrick Mahomes going into the Super Bowl or the playoffs. So, like I said, I think you're going to see this Texans defense put relentless pressure on, test that ankle out, and see what he can do. But don't be surprised also you see the Chiefs rely on the running game to take some of the pressure off of Patrick Mahomes. So, and also, how will C.J. Stroud do against this Chiefs defense? So, it's going to be a very telling game here. I cannot wait to see what happens here. So, if they can get, like I said, if the Texans can get pressure on Patrick Mahomes and he can't do anything with that high ankle sprain, the Chiefs could be in big trouble. And this could be a huge opportunity for an upset win for the Texans. So I am with you as well, Florio. I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs as well. But just like you said, and I'm going to agree with you as well, I'm not overly confident with this pick because of the way the Chiefs have been involved in these tight matchups. these last few games. Eventually, Florio, this is going to come back and bite them. We'll see what happens here, but give me the Chiefs to win, but I am not overly confident with this pick. So, with that being said, let's move on to our next Saturday game, and it's going to be a special Saturday version of America's Game of the Week.
Yes, indeed. And how I wish this was on our side of the ledger. This would have been a perfect number 2 to this to the last one, but nonetheless, this will go to Fox, and Bullock is right. It's a Saturday edition of America's Game of the Week, 4:30 on Fox. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers squaring off against the Baltimore Ravens in a huge AFC North division matchup. If it's America's Game of the Week on Fox, you know who's working it. And yes, indeed, it will be Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi. They will be at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore for this one. Of course, Arrowhead Stadium for the Texans and the Chiefs. And the spread favors Baltimore. Baltimore opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. And second meeting between these two division rivals. They met back in week number 11 in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh won that game by a score of 18-16. So that adds to Pittsburgh's regular season series lead. It's now 33-24 in favor of Pittsburgh. And good news for Steeler fans. Steeler fans should be encouraged because the Steelers have won 4 straight meetings in Baltimore. The Ravens have not beaten the Chiefs at home since 2019. Last year, Pittsburgh won in Baltimore 17-10. The Ravens' last win at home against Pittsburgh was 2019. That was a 28-10 final. So not much more to say. Bullock, this is a huge one in the AFC North. A lot at stake. The Steelers, they're already in. If they win this game, if Pittsburgh wins this game, they win the division. The AFC North is theirs for the first time since the COVID season of 2020. But for the Ravens, they need a win, and they need a win to not only do they need a win to secure a playoff spot, but I'll get into the other details in just a moment. But the bottom line is Pittsburgh wins, the division is theirs. Baltimore wins, well, the division race will be a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and it's like you said, a big game between two longtime rivalries in that division, the AFC North. I mean, we've seen a lot of great battles between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I mean, not just in the regular season. It'll also be what we've seen in the playoffs. I mean, they've met so many times in the postseason. You have to go back to the 2001 the 2001 divisional round, the 2008 AFC Championship game, and also the 2010 divisional round. So, yeah, a lot is at stake here. And for, like you said, with Baltimore, or should I say with Pittsburgh, all they got to do is win, and they will claim the AFC North for the first time, like you said, since that COVID season. So we're going to wait and see how it all plays out here. I mean, but if Baltimore wins, it could go either way. So we'll see what happens here. Ooh, this is a tough one to call here. But this is Lamar Jackson, the former MVP, and you still got that good offense of Baltimore. And yeah, so I'll tell you what, Florio. If this game was in Pittsburgh, I would have gone with the Steelers. But this is in Baltimore. I still got faith in this Ravens team, so I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win this one. But again, like with the previous game, I am not overly confident with this pick. So I mean, like I said, I would not be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers do win this one. Like I said, if this were in Pittsburgh, I go with them. But it's in Baltimore, so I'm gonna go with the Ravens to win this. But again, Florio, I'm not confident with this pick.
I don't blame you. This is a great AFC North clash between the 10-4 Steelers and 9-5 Ravens. And there is some extra spice there from the ongoing hard knocks in season, focusing on that division. Pittsburgh narrowly won 18-16 in the team's last meeting on November 17th, but that was in Pittsburgh. And the Steelers are 6.5-point road underdogs in Baltimore. For the Steelers, a key player is linebacker TJ Watt, who will indeed play tomorrow despite suffering an ankle injury late in their loss to the Philadelphia Eagles last Sunday. Watt has 11.5 sacks, tied for third in the league this year, plus a league-high 6 forced fumbles and 54 tackles. For the Ravens, quarterback Lamar Jackson continues to shine, coming off a game where he threw for 290 yards and 5 touchdowns with no interceptions in a 35-14 win at the New York Giants. He has 3,580 passing yards, which is 5th in the league, 68% completion mark, 34 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. Keep that in mind. All right, just a moment. Okay. Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith compared the Steelers' run game to an old truck earlier this week, saying that it might take some time to get it started, but it can put together some nice drives. In the 2-game absence of wide receiver George Pickens, who could be out again this week, their offense became more one-dimensional and could not run the ball effectively. To clinch the AFC North title against the league's best rushing defense, the Steelers must establish the run early. The Ravens can tie the Steelers atop the AFC North with a win, but they will need quarterback Lamar Jackson to break out of his slump against them. In losing 4 of his 5 starts against Pittsburgh, he recorded career lows in QBR at 39 and completion rate at 57%. The Steelers have pressured the 2-time NFL MVP on 31% of his dropbacks and sacked him 22 times. For the coaches, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh, the run of 9 straight meetings decided by 7 points or fewer is the longest such streak by 2 head coaches in NFL history, regular season or playoffs. As I mentioned earlier, the Steelers have already made the playoffs and can win the AFC North with a win. They can clinch the North with a win, which would be their first division title since the COVID season of 2020. The Ravens can clinch a playoff spot with a win, or if the Colts lose to Tennessee, and the Dolphins, they need both the Colts and the Dolphins to lose. They need the Colts to lose to Tennessee, and they also need the Dolphins to lose to San Francisco. The FPI gives it to Baltimore. They like Baltimore in this one. 67% going with the Baltimore Ravens. And I am going to go with the Baltimore Ravens as well. And like Bullock, and like in the first game, this is not an overly confident pick, but I am going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win this game as well. My final score is going to be 27-21. Baltimore defeats Pittsburgh and makes that AFC North division race a lot more interesting with 2 weeks to go. So Baltimore wins 27-21. So now we move on to the Sunday slate of games. And we started off with a game that can be seen over on Fox, as it will feature the New York Giants squaring off against the Atlanta Falcons, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And on the call for this game, I believe it's Kevin Kugler's crew. Yes, Kevin Kugler, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Laura Oakman. They will be on the call for this matchup. And the spread favors Atlanta. Atlanta opening up as an 8.5-point favorite in this one. Very high spread for Atlanta. And the series history favors Atlanta. Atlanta leads the regular season series 14-11. Their last meeting was in 2021 in New York. and Atlanta won that game 17-14. Matter of fact, the Falcons have won the last 3 meetings in a row against the Giants, winning the last meeting in New York in 2021, 17-14. Last meeting in Atlanta was 2018. Atlanta also won 23-20. Giants last beat the Falcons in 2014 in New York, 30-20. The Giants have not won in Atlanta since their Super Bowl season of 2007, when they went into Atlanta and smashed the Falcons that year, 31-10. So now let's get into the Sunday slate of action. As the Giants try to avoid a franchise record 10th straight loss, wide receiver Malik Nabers has a bunch of records in sight. He's 99 yards away from being a 1,000-yard receiver and 2 catches from passing Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham Jr. for most catches by a rookie in franchise history. Nabers, with 90 catches, has a shot at Puka Nakua's NFL rookie record of 105 catches. For the Falcons, new quarterback Michael Penix Jr., the 8th pick in the 2024 draft, will make his first NFL start. Falcons coach Raheem Morris said this week that Penix has not thrown much to the team's starting wide receivers in practice because he has been the scout team quarterback behind Kirk Cousins since OTAs. But Penix trained with Ray McLeod III in the offseason, and the two have developed good chemistry. Falcons running back Bijan Robinson is 1 touchdown away from being the first Falcons player with 1,000 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns in a season since Devontae Freeman in 2016. The Falcons are 1 game back of Tampa Bay in the NFC South. Atlanta currently has a 29% chance of making the playoffs and a 21% chance of winning the NFC South division. The FPI gives it to Atlanta here, 63% going with the Atlanta Falcons, and I am going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win this game as well. My final score is going to be 28-14. The Atlanta Falcons defeat the New York Giants in Atlanta on Sunday, and somehow, some way, keep pace with Tampa Bay in that NFC South. So a winnable game. I think Atlanta can win this one. So give me the Falcons 28-14. So Michael Bullock, we start the Sunday slate now with the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. Big change here. Kirk Cousins out, Michael Penix Jr. in.
This is a very interesting move here, Florio, because the thing is, the Atlanta Falcons, they're still in the playoff chase. So it's kind of a strange time for them to do it, but obviously with the way Cousins has been playing lately, so, and plus, let's not forget, they're facing a not so good team in the New York Giants, so they figured that this was the time to maybe put Penix out there and see what he can do. So, yeah, so I too am going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win this one. I mean, I think they should be able to handle their business with the Giants. So, Falcons win. So let's move on to the next game.
All right, another one of the games of the week. We're going to stay on Fox here. As we will next up on our docket, it is the Arizona Cardinals squaring off against the Carolina Panthers, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. On the call for this game, it will be Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth, and Jen Hale. And the spread favors Arizona. Arizona opening up as a 4.5-point favorite. And Carolina leads the all-time regular season series by a count of 12-5. Their last meeting was 2022 in Charlotte, and Arizona won that game 26-16. And in that and when they won that game 2 years ago, it snapped a 6-game losing streak to Carolina, including the playoffs. Panthers last beat the Cardinals in 2021 in Arizona, 34-10. Panthers last beat the Cardinals at home in 2020, 31-21. So not much more to say here. So Michael Bullock, Arizona and Carolina next up on the old docket here. And the one thing of note here, of course, obviously Carolina can't do anything, but Arizona, believe it or not, they're still in that NFC West race. They are one game behind both the Rams and Seattle for first in the West. So, and this is somewhat of a winnable game, but Carolina's been playing a lot better lately and giving teams a lot of fits lately. But for Arizona, it's imperative that Arizona wins this game if they want to have any chance of winning the West.
Yeah, they definitely need to win this game if they want to win that NFC West. I mean, Carolina, like you said, they've been playing better as of late. I mean, yes, the record still doesn't show it, but they've definitely improved and they've given some teams fits. And I've always said that a team that's dangerous is a team that's literally got nothing to lose here. So who knows? Maybe they can hang around with the Cardinals, but at the end of the day, I do have the Arizona Cardinals winning this one. So it's yours, Florio.
Absolutely. And the Panthers' struggles throwing the ball this season will give the Cardinals a prime opportunity to continue their march toward a playoff spot. Their defense is giving up 217 passing yards a game and 6.94 passing yards a play, and will line up across an offense that is among the worst passing teams in the NFL, averaging 186 yards a game at that, which is 29th, and 5.69 yards a play, which is 28th. Carolina probably will be without one of its best remaining defensive linemen, A'Shawn Robinson, with a knee, on a unit that already ranks last in the NFL against the run, giving up 173 yards a game. It also lost two more linebackers to IR, Traven Wallace and Claudin Cherilus. That is not good news when you're facing the league's seventh best run offense, averaging 141 yards, and an elusive quarterback in Kyler Murray. With a loss, the Panthers would clinch 5 or fewer wins for the fifth time in the last 6 seasons. Before 2019, the franchise had only 3 seasons with 5 or fewer wins since they played their first NFL season in 1995. The Cardinals are a game back of the Rams and Seahawks for first place in the NFC West. Arizona enters Sunday with a 14% chance to win the division, per ESPN Analytics. Overwhelming FPI for Arizona, 75%, going with the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals as well. My final score is going to be 30-20. 30-20, Arizona defeats Carolina on Sunday. We move on now to our next game. NFC North divisional matchup. The Detroit Lions squaring off against the Chicago Bears, Soldier Field in Chicago. Also on Fox, we got Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Megan O'Leary. They will have the call on that one. And Detroit opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. And we all remember the last time these two teams met, of course. That was on Thanksgiving Day. A game that had no right to be as close as it was. But nonetheless, the Detroit Lions, they were very, very, very fortunate to win that game. And I do mean fortunate. On that Thanksgiving game. So Detroit won that game by a score of 23-20 at Ford Field in Detroit. So they cut into Chicago's very sizable overall series lead. Chicago still leads the overall series 105, and it's now 105-79 with 5 ties. Last year, and here's the thing, last year in Chicago, the Chicago Bears defeated the Detroit Lions by a score of 28-13. Detroit's last win in Chicago was 2022. Final score there was 31-30. So let's get into this matchup now. This NFC North clash has the 12-2 Lions at the 4-10 Bears, but Detroit is only a 6.5-point road favorite, and that is despite Chicago losing 30-12 and 38-13 in their last 2 games. And part of that may be because the Lions narrowly won the Thanksgiving game between these teams, 23-20 at home. For Detroit, watch out for quarterback Jared Goff. He threw for 494 yards and 5 touchdowns with no interceptions in a 48-42 shootout loss to the Buffalo Bills last Sunday. For the Bears, running back DeAndre Swift is coming in off a game where he was heavily used, rushing for 79 yards on 19 carries. He averaged 4.2 yards a carry in a loss to the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night. Bear with me for a moment. All right. Detroit has been bitten by the injury bug with a league-high 21 players currently on the injured reserve list, including running back David Montgomery, who sustained a torn MCL in their loss to Buffalo. Without Montgomery, Coach Dan Campbell is confident in Jahmyr Gibbs' ability as the Lions' lead horse. Gibbs said his on-field mindset won't change. I've been doing this my whole life, so I don't look at it any different. Chicago's 8 straight losses are taking a toll on rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. Losing is one of those things that really affects me, he said. It's tough. The Bears have their second straight NFC North matchup coming off a loss to Minnesota on Monday night, in which they converted only one third down opportunity. Williams has the third worst off-target percentage at 21.4 this season and a 51 QBR against man coverage, which Detroit plays at the highest rate in the league at 56%. The Bears' 8 straight losses are tied for the second longest losing streak in franchise history and their longest since losing 14 consecutive games, spanning between 2022 and 2023. With a win, the Detroit Lions' chances at the number 1 seed in the NFC improve to 65% per ESPN Analytics. With a loss, they would go all the way down to 26%. But the FPI still loves Detroit in this one. 72% going with the Detroit Lions. And I am going to go with the Detroit Lions to win this game. I think they will bounce back. I'm going to go, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being, like it was on Thanksgiving. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a close game. But nonetheless, I do have Detroit winning 30-24. The Detroit Lions get back on track. They defeat the Chicago Bears. So not much more to say here. Bullock, I mean, Detroit. Oh, boy. What a game. What a game against the Buffalo Bills. Game of the year. More than lived up to the hype and then some. But it was my Buffalo Bills who stole one at Ford Field last Sunday. And these Lions, let's be realistic. They're a walking mash unit right now, including losing one half of their two-headed monster at running back, David Montgomery. He's done. It's going to be all on Jahmyr Gibbs now. But they still have Jared Goff. They still have that great receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, for the Lions, yeah, they now they got to play Chicago in Chicago, and we cannot forget what the Chicago Bears did to them on Thanksgiving, a game they honestly should have won if it wasn't for the worst clock management you and I or anybody will ever see in the history of the NFL, which led to that individual getting rightfully fired. So not much more to say here. Big game here. But this is definitely a must-win for Detroit if they want to have any chance at that number 1 seed. 65% chance with a win, all the way down to 26% if they lose.
And I'll tell you this, Floor. I mean, what a game that was with the Bills and the Lions. I mean, it was high scoring, and the thing is, I mean, it wasn't Jared Goff's fault that they lost, because you saw, I mean, 38 of 59, 494 yards, and 5 touchdown passes. And the strange thing is, Florio, get this. I mean, he threw 5 interceptions against the Texans, and yet they win the game. And here he throws 5 touchdown passes against the Bills, and yet he comes up on the short end of the stick. I mean, isn't that weird, Florio?
Absolutely. Normally, it's the other way around. You throw 5 interceptions, you ain't winning that game. And you throw 5 touchdown passes, you're most assuredly going to win.
Yeah, I mean, so it wasn't all Jared Goff's fault that they lost.
No, it's just that. Well, Josh Allen. Well, it was Josh Allen. It was the running. It was Buffalo's running game. Buffalo's running game outperformed Detroit's running game.
And I say because of this win, that win by the Bills, Florio, and you're going to be happy with what I'm about to say. Josh Allen to me is the favorite to win the MVP because you have a game like he did,
The last 2
especially
games,
against the Lions.
And don't forget the Ram game too.
Yeah, and the Ram game too. I mean, I think this game to me solidified himself as the favorite to win the MVP.
And we'll have more on JA-17 later.
Exactly. But yeah, I got the Lions. They're going to bounce back and win this game. I mean, yes, they don't have Montgomery, but I think Gibbs can pick up the slack, and I think that receiving game will continue to pick it up for them. So Lions win. On to the next game.
All right. You've noticed that we've had a lot of Fox games at the start of this. Well, we're finally going to have a game on our end of the ledger here. This game, I believe we have this ranked as our number 6 game of the week. And here's an interesting thing about this game. This game has been flexed in the NFL schedule not once, not twice, but 3 different times. If you can imagine that. This game, when the schedule came out in May, this was originally supposed to be the Thursday night game on Amazon Prime Video. But that got slotted out, and they gave us Denver and the Chargers, and I think that ended up being a far much better choice. And then this game, initially this game was cross-flexed over to Fox, but now, earlier in the week, they made the decision to flex this game from Fox to CBS. So, unreal. But nonetheless, here we are. Our number 6 game of the week, the Cleveland Browns squaring off against the Cincinnati Bengals. Paycor Stadium, formerly Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati. And on the call for CBS, it'll be Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and Aditi Kinkabuela. And Cincinnati opening up as an 8.5-point favorite. These two teams met earlier this season, second meeting between these two division rivals. And Cincinnati defeated Cleveland in Cleveland by a score of 21-14. So this now adds to Cincinnati's all-time series lead. Cincinnati now leads the series, including that win. It's now 54-48 in favor of Cincinnati. And last year in Cincinnati won 31-14. Cincinnati's won the last 2 meetings at home against Cleveland. Cleveland's last win in Cincinnati was in 2021, and Cleveland smashed Cincinnati 41-16 in that game. So, Michael Bullock, this is our number 6 game of the week here. Obviously, Cleveland's done, but another interesting set of storylines here. Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is out. Dorian Thompson-Robinson will get the start for Cleveland. And for the Bengals, well, any chance for them to make the playoffs rides on this game. If they lose, they're done. And they currently have only a 6% chance to win this game. So for Cincy, the key word of the night so far is imperative. And it is beyond imperative that Cincinnati wins this game. Because like I said, if they lose, they're done.
Yeah, they need to win this game. Well, to me, I got to say, they got to win out and get a lot of help if they somehow want to once again make the playoffs. I mean, it's going to be tough, but the only thing they can do is just win. And we'll see what happens afterwards. But I got Cincinnati winning this one, so it's yours, Florio.
At quarterback, the Browns are turning to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a 2023 fifth-round pick who will make his fourth career start on Sunday. His mobility should open some things in the run game, but like the recently benched Jameis Winston, he will have to take better care of the ball. Thompson-Robinson has thrown 7 interceptions to only 1 touchdown already. Browns defensive end Myles Garrett has sacked Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow 9 times, the most of any opponent in Burrow's career. Cincinnati is trying to blank Garrett's sack count against Burrow for the first time in 5 seasons. Getting Cody Ford back from the flu will be big for an offensive line still without Orlando Brown Jr. with a fibula injury. Joe Burrow has a 72 QBR in every Bengals loss this season. That is the second best mark since the metric was first calculated in 2006. Ben Roethlisberger had a 76 QBR in 6 losses in 2018. As I stated earlier, any chance for the Bengals to make the playoffs ride on this game. They will be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss to the Browns, and they currently hold the 9th best odds at only 6% per ESPN Analytics. But the FPI likes Cincinnati in this one, 67% going with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I am going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. And this is definitely a confident pick here. 30-13. I got Cincinnati all over Cleveland in this game. Next up, we go from one division rivalry to another division rivalry. AFC South divisional rivalry. And this is our number 7 game of the week, as it will feature the Tennessee Titans squaring off against the Indianapolis Colts, Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And on the call for this game will be Tom McCarthy, Jay Feely, Ross Tucker, and Tiffany Blackman. They met earlier this season in Tennessee, and Indianapolis won that game. It was Indianapolis. Yeah, Indianapolis won that game 20-17. So, and by the way, Indianapolis opening the Indianapolis Colts are opening up as a 3.5-point favorite in this game. All right. With that Colt win, the Colts now lead the regular season series 38-21, and have now won 3 straight meetings with Tennessee. Last year in Indianapolis, the Colts won that game 23-16. Tennessee's last win in Indianapolis was 2022. That was a 19-10 final. So let's get into this matchup here. Titans receiver Calvin Ridley needs 221 receiving yards to reach the 1,000-yard mark. He did not register a reception in the first meeting with the Colts, despite being targeted 8 times by then-starter Will Levis. Mason Rudolph will be the quarterback this time, which is good news for Ridley, as his season-high 143 receiving yards came with Rudolph throwing to him against the Detroit Lions. The Colts enter this week ranked 28th in yards allowed per game at 366, their lowest mark since 2017, when they finished that season 4-12. Somehow they've ranked better in scoring defense at 21st with 23.5 points a game. But an underrated byproduct has been Indianapolis having the NFL's lowest time of possession at 26 minutes and 41 seconds a game. Titans running back Tony Pollard needs 85 scrimmage yards to reach 1,300 for the 3rd straight season. He would join Derrick Henry as the only players to reach that mark in each of the last 3 seasons. The Colts were eliminated from playoff contention after the Chargers defeated the Broncos last night, but the Titans still have something on the line, as their current 39% chance at a top 5 pick will improve with a win, per ESPN Analytics. This FPI is basically a pick'em. Pretty much, it has Indianapolis with the FPI at 49.9%. Yeesh. But I am going to go with the Indianapolis Colts to win this game. My final score, I'm going to go 24-13. The Indianapolis Colts defeat the Tennessee Titans. So not much more to say here. Michael Bullock, nothing to play for here. Colts are out. Colts were eliminated from playoff contention because of the Charger win over Denver last night. And Tennessee, playing for draft positioning. So, your thoughts on this somewhat meaningless game?
Yeah, this is pretty much a meaningless game. Like you said, Colts are just basically playing for pride, and Tennessee playing for draft positioning here. So, I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts to win this one as well. With that being said, and we got an update here, and the Indiana Hoosiers have just scored a touchdown, and now they must go for two here in order to have any chance, and then recover an onside kick.
Oh boy, making some noise late.
Well, like I said, the most important thing here is they gotta make this 2-point conversion.
Yeah, they get the 2-point conversion. They then would have to go for an onside and hope they get
Well, they're
it.
going to go for an onside either way.
Oh, they're definitely going to go for an onside regardless of what happens. But
let's see what happens here.
Yep.
All right, he's back to throw. Oh, and it's incomplete.
That's pretty much it.
I think that pretty much seals it. I think it looks like Notre Dame's moving on, and they're going to have a date with the Maine and Georgia Bulldogs on January 1st.
In the Sugar Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be the last of the quarterfinal matchups.
All right.
My God, in and out of his hands, too.
Wow. He should have had that one.
He dropped it.
He should have had that one.
Yeah, he should have had that one. You're right.
I mean, yes, there was a little bit of a deflection there from the defender, but he still should have had that.
Yeah, that was close. But yes, the first game of the new 12-team college football playoff era, and it's very much looking like the Notre Dame, my team, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, will be the first team to advance, and they will head now to the Superdome in New Orleans to take on the Maine and Georgia Bulldogs on New Year's Day night, January 1st.
And that will officially do it as Notre Dame recovers the onside kick.
Ball game. All right, so did you finish your thought on Tennessee and Indy?
Yeah, I said Indy was going to win.
Okay. All right. We got 2 games left in this early window. And we move on to what will be our number 4 game of the week. It's the number 4 game of the week on our side of the ledger. We got the Los Angeles Rams squaring off against the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins, they will have the call. And the Rams opening up as a 3-point favorite. And the Rams lead the all-time series 10-5. Their last meeting was 2020 in Los Angeles, and the Jets actually won that game 23-20. Last meeting in New York was 2016. Rams won an ugly game 9-6. The Jets last beat the Rams at home in 2008. They smashed the Rams in that game 47-3. So not much more to say here. Bullock, I think you lead off on this one.
Yeah, I lead off on it.
All right. We got the Los Angeles Rams and the New York Jets in our number 4 game of the week, and we already know the Jets are done, but this is a big one for the Rams here, especially they pretty much control their own destiny now that they've taken over first place in the NFC West. So I'll get to those numbers in a minute, but nonetheless, Jets are done, but the Rams, they got a lot more to play for.
Yeah, they got a lot more to play for. Like you said, they control their destiny. They gotta, if they can somehow win out, I think they could take this. They could take this division. So we'll see what happens here. And like you said, with the Jets, they're nothing to play for at all. So I'm gonna go with the LA Rams to win this one. So it's yours, Florio.
Yeah. This is the 18th time starting quarterbacks Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers will face each other, which will be tied for the 5th most among starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era, including playoffs, according to ESPN research. Rodgers has won 13 of them, but Stafford might have the upper hand this time, since the Jets have won only twice in their last 11 games. Aaron Rodgers needs 2 touchdown passes to become only the 5th player in NFL history to hit the 500 mark. He's playing his best ball of the year, having thrown for 628 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions in his last 2 games. The offense has actually produced 58 points and 802 yards, which are its most in back-to-back games this season. The Rams are looking to become the first team in NFL history to make the playoffs in back-to-back seasons after being 3 games under 500 at some point in the season. And here come the numbers now. The Rams currently have a 54% chance to make the playoffs and a 53% chance to win the NFC West, per ESPN Analytics. With a win, the Rams' playoff chances would improve to 65%, and their division chances would improve to 64%. If they lose, the playoff chances drop to 43%, and the division chances drop to 42%. It's a slight FPI for the Rams, only 51% going with the Rams. But nonetheless, I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams to win this game as well. My final score, I'm going to go 28-24. The Los Angeles Rams defeat the New York Jets at MetLife in what could be an interesting game. Could be a sleeper game of the week right there. One early game left, and this is a big one. I could consider this pretty much the game of the early window right here. On Fox, huge NFC East implications in this one. The Philadelphia Eagles squaring off against the Washington Commanders, Northwest Stadium, formerly FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. Joe Davis, Greg Olson, and Pam Oliver. These 2 teams met earlier this season on a Thursday night in Philadelphia, and it was the Philadelphia Eagles winning that game in Philadelphia on that Thursday night. They defeated Washington 26-18 in that game. And Philadelphia opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. So when it comes to the series history, Philly cuts into Washington series lead. Washington still leads the all-time regular season series, but it is now 88-85 with 5 ties. And good news for Eagles fans, the Eagles have won the last 3 meetings in a row in Washington, including a wild 38-31 final last year. Washington has not beaten the Eagles at home since the COVID season of 2020, when they won that game 27-17. So very high stakes, especially for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are atop the NFC East with a 12-2 record, but the Commanders are second at 9-5, and they're only 3.5-point home underdogs here. Washington has also won 3 in a row, but that includes a 1-point win at New Orleans last Sunday. For Philadelphia, keep an eye on wide receiver A.J. Brown, who has been listed with a limited designation this week with a knee/rest. He also made a lot of headlines with his comments and tweets on the team's passing game, but he has a team-high 946 receiving yards this season, plus 5 touchdowns. For Washington, watch for quarterback Jaden Daniels, who's been very efficient. He threw for 226 yards and 2 touchdowns with no interceptions and an almost 81% completion mark in New Orleans last week. The Eagles' pass game awoke against the Steelers after several quiet games, with quarterback Jalen Hurts throwing for 290 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Wide receiver A.J. Brown was targeted a season-high 11 times and finished with 8 catches for 110 yards. Good things happen when Hurts goes Brown's way, as the duo topped the NFL in yards per attempt at 12.1. In the first meeting in Week 11, a 26-18 Eagles win, Commanders' leading receiver Terry McLaurin was targeted a season-low 2 times. Philadelphia often bracketed him in the red zone, and it did not help that he ran 22 of his 25 routes from the left side. But in the last 3 games, Washington has moved him around more. 40 routes run from the left side and 22 on the right. More importantly, he has more than 9 targets on both sides during this stretch. Jalen Hurts has 14 rushing touchdowns, which is the most in the NFL, and tied for the third most by a quarterback through a season in NFL history. He had 15 in 2023, which Buffalo's Josh Allen matched in the same year for the second most ever. What's at stake? Well, it's very simple. The Eagles can clinch the NFC East with a win. If the Commanders win, they need Atlanta to lose to the Giants, as well as losses by either the Rams at the Jets or the Seahawks to the Vikings to make the playoffs. 59% FPI for Philadelphia, and I am going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game and win the NFC East. It's not going to be easy, but I think they will do just enough to steal one in Washington and win the division. Give me Philadelphia 27-24. Philadelphia defeats Washington and wins the NFC East. So not much more to say. Michael Bullock, it's very simple. Philly wins. They win the division. Washington wins. Oh boy, do things get interesting.
Yeah, it'll get interesting if Washington somehow pulls this one out, which they could, but Philadelphia is just on a roll right now. I mean, especially coming off of a huge win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I expect the Philadelphia Eagles to win this one and clinch the NFC Eastern Division title. So nothing more to say. Let's get on to the late window.
Yep, it is now late game time. We got 4 of them. We have 1 game at 4:05 on Fox and 3 games at 4:25 on CBS. We'll start it off with our 4:05 game on Fox. Another good one here. Another game with NFC playoff implications, as it will feature the Minnesota Vikings squaring off against the Seattle Seahawks from Lumen Field in Seattle. And on the call for this game, I believe it'll be Adam Amin's crew. Yes, it'll be Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink. And the spread favors Minnesota. Minnesota opening up as a 3-point favorite. Seattle, though. Seattle leads the all-time series regular season-wise 12-6. And here's some good news for Seattle fans. Seattle has won 7 straight meetings with Minnesota, including playoffs. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I made a mistake there. In their last meeting in 2021 in Minnesota, Minnesota won that game by a score of 30-17. Last meeting in Seattle was 2020. Seattle won 27-26. Minnesota has not won in Seattle since 2006, and that was a 31-13 final. So, Michael Bullock, there's nothing left to say here. Major playoff implications when it comes to both of these teams. And something most definitely has to give here, but nothing left to say except a very intriguing, interesting 4:05 game here on Fox. Minnesota's in, but Seattle, they need a win here, maybe a little bit of help, but regardless, major implications for both teams in this matchup.
Yeah, a lot of major implications here in this game, and you said Minnesota's already in, right?
Yes, Minnesota is already in. Yes.
Yeah, so this is more of a big game for Seattle because they need to keep pace when it comes to that NFC West here. But it's been a really good season for Minnesota, especially with what Sam Darnold has done as the starter. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win this one. So what's yours, Florio?
Absolutely. And just bear with me for a minute as I set this thing up here. Okay. The Vikings have struggled to win in Seattle, a trend that includes generations of players, coaches, front offices, and ownership groups. They've lost their last 5 games there and have only won twice in 11 games over the last 6 decades. On paper, this season's matchup favors the Vikings, since their defense is tied for the NFL's 4th most sacks at 42. The Seahawks have given up the league's third most sacks at 47. Under defensive coordinator Brian Flores, the Vikings are blitzing on a league-high 39% of opponents' dropbacks. Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith has the 9th best QBR at about 81 against the blitz. But will he have his usual ability to evade rushers and extend plays on Sunday? Geno Smith could not finish Seattle's loss to Green Bay last Sunday night because of a right knee injury, though he plans to play against Minnesota. The Seahawks are 3-5 at home this season. A loss would mark their most home losses in a season since 2008, when they finished that year 2-6 at Lumen Field. Though the Vikings have already clinched a playoff spot, the Seahawks currently hold a 36% chance to make the playoffs per ESPN Analytics. Their odds will increase to just about 55% with a win, but would decrease to 23% with a loss. The FPI likes Minnesota in this game, 59% going with the Minnesota Vikings, and I am going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win this game as well. I'm going to go 24-17. The Minnesota Vikings defeat the Seattle Seahawks, but I certainly would not be surprised if Seattle were to steal this game. And in a sense, Minnesota needs it just as much, because remember, they're right there with Detroit in that NFC North race, and would also definitely throw their hat into the ring for that number 1 seed in the NFC. So we got to wait and see what happens there. But for right now, I'm going with Minnesota to win. 3 4:25 games now on CBS. And this first one, well, let's just say this one has implications for myself and for Michael Bullock here. As believe it or not, this is the first time our teams are meeting each other this season. To kick off the 4:25 games on CBS, this is our number 5 game of the week, as it will feature Michael Bullock's New England Patriots squaring off against my Buffalo Bills, Highmark Stadium in Buffalo. And on the call for this game for CBS, it'll be Ian Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn. And Bullock, you're not gonna like what I'm about to tell you. Buffalo opening up as a 14-point favorite.
Ouch.
2 touchdown spread for Buffalo. And but the good news is New England still leads the all-time series rather convincingly. New England leads the regular season series 77-49 with a tie. Last year in Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills defeated the New England Patriots 27-21. The Bills have won the last 2 meetings at home against the Patriots. The Patriots last winning in Buffalo in 2021, December of 2021, on a windy Monday night by a count of 14-10. And once again, I hate to do this, but it's going to be cold. It's not going to be just cold, folks. It's going to be bone-chilling cold. You don't want to know. Oh, you don't want to know how cold it's going to be. We're talking teens here, folks. We're talking temperatures in the teens. And I bear with me. I'm just trying to. Now, I'm not a meteorologist, and I certainly am not like any of the great meteorologists you see on newscasts today. But we're talking 4:25 kickoff here on Sunday. When that game starts, the game time temperature is going to be 15 degrees at kickoff. 15. And roughly about 3.5 hours or so, by the time this game is over, temperatures will be between 9 and 10 degrees. And I think we all remember what happened the last time we had a game in Buffalo with temperatures like that. Bullock, you should know that better than anybody. So, okay. So with that being said, let's dive into our number 5 game of the week here. The last 2 times the Patriots and Bills have played in Buffalo, the opening kickoff has been returned for a touchdown. which has never happened between the same teams at the same time at the same venue in back-to-back seasons. This will also be the coldest game for Patriots rookie quarterback Drake May, with the forecast calling for temperatures in the teens. Drake May said, "I'm excited to wear long sleeves for the first time and embrace it." The Bills offense has a chance to become the first team to score 30-plus points in 9 straight games. The Patriots have given up 24 points a game this season, 10th worst. New England's biggest task will be slowing down MVP candidate Josh Allen, who can also become the first quarterback in the last 90 years to record multiple rushing touchdowns in 3 consecutive games, per the Elias Sports Bureau. Drake May has a passing touchdown in 6 consecutive games entering Sunday. One more would tie Jim Plunkett in 1971 for the longest streak by a rookie in franchise history. The Bills are in a fight with the Kansas City Chiefs for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Buffalo's chances increase to 25% with a win, but would fall to just north of 4% with a loss, per ESPN Analytics. On the other end, the Patriots' odds at the number 1 pick climbed to 30% with a loss. Overwhelming FPI for Buffalo. 83% going with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. Of course, I'm going with my Buffalo Bills to win this game as well. And I think Buffalo is going to win this one rather convincingly. Buffalo will win this one. My final score, 41-13. Buffalo all over New England, and keep Kansas City on their toes for that number 1 seed. So give me Buffalo to win, 41-13. I could go as far as to call this a lock of the week if I wanted to. But nonetheless, Buffalo wins 41-13. And Bullock, the last time we had a game in conditions like this, well, it was that infamous playoff game in January of 2022, and we all know how that turned out. So
yeah, it was a Ryback squash.
Oh yeah, but Buffalo right now clicking on all cylinders, especially after that huge win in Detroit last week. And now they have a very favorable schedule to close it out. And they have a somewhat of a puncher's chance at that number 1 seed in the AFC. All they got to do is keep winning and hope Kansas City somehow stumbles.
Yeah. That's the thing there. So, I'm just going to make it short and sweet. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this one as well. This is not even going to be close. So, nothing more to say. Let's move on to the next game.
And we move on to our Zonk game of the week. Heck, you could call this the Zonk game of the year if you wanted to, because both of these teams are absolutely terrible. It'll feature the Jacksonville Jaguars squaring off against the Las Vegas Raiders from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. On CBS, it'll be Andrew Catalon, Tiki Barber, Jason McCourty, and AJ Ross. And the spread favors... trying to find it here. Okay. Believe it or not, Vegas is opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. Spread is 1.5 for Vegas. Series history, however, favors Jacksonville 6-4. And the Jags have won the last 2 meetings in a row against these teams. 2022 in Jacksonville was the last meeting. Jacksonville won 27-20. The last time the Raiders were the home team, they were still the Oakland Raiders, and that was in 2019. Jacksonville won that game 20-16. Raiders last beat the Jags in 2016, a 33-16 win in Jacksonville, and their last home win over Jacksonville was 2013, a 19-9 win. So, Bullock, I'm sorry to do this to you, but it's our Zonk game of the week, Jacksonville and Las Vegas. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is the Zonk game of the week here, and I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going with the Vegas Raiders to win this one. It's yours.
Yeah. Jacksonville has really struggled preventing the big play. The Jaguars have given up a league-high 89 explosive plays, which is rushes of 15 or more yards and receptions of 30 or more yards. They've also given up 16 touchdowns on those plays, which is tied with Cleveland for the most. That's a good matchup for the Raiders, who ranked 22nd in the NFL with 44 offensive plays of 20 or more yards. With only 6 catches in the Raiders' last 2 games, Brock Bowers has fallen to fourth in the NFL with 90 catches. He was leading the league 2 weeks ago. Despite the team's quarterback issues, he needs 32 more yards to be the third rookie tight end to eclipse 1,000 yards, 1,000 receiving yards in NFL history, joining Mike Ditka with 1,076 and Kyle Pitts with 1,026. He will face a Jaguar team that has the worst pass defense in the league at 264 yards a game. If the Raiders lose out in their final 3 games, they will tie their longest losing streak in franchise history, which was 13 straight in 1962. After this week, they face New Orleans and the LA Chargers to end the season. This matchup can drastically improve or hurt both teams' chances at the number 1 draft pick, independent of other results. The Raiders' odds at the selection increased to 30% with a loss and decreased to 2% with a win, per ESPN Analytics. The Jaguars' chances climb to 11% with a loss and fall to less than 1% with a win. The FPI likes Vegas in this one, 57% going with Las Vegas. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I got to go with Jacksonville in this one. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game. Ugly game. I'm going to say 21-13. Jacksonville defeats Las Vegas. So our final 425 game, and it's our number 3 game of the week. Playoff implications for both of these teams, as it will be the San Francisco 49ers squaring off against good old MF Michael Fletcher's team, the Miami Dolphins. Hard Rock Stadium, Miami, Florida, on CBS. Hello, friends. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson. They will be in Miami for this one. And believe it or not, the Miami Dolphins are opening up as a 1-point favorite. 1-point spread for Miami. Series history favors the Miami Dolphins, regular season-wise, 8-6. Their last meeting was 2022 in San Francisco. San Francisco won that game by a score of 33-17. Last meeting in Miami was 2016, and the Miami Dolphins won that game 31-24. The San Francisco 49ers have not won in Miami since all the way back in 1995, and the 49ers smashed the Dolphins in that game 44-20. So major implications for both of these teams in this game here. Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill is averaging 12 yards per catch this season, which is on pace for the 3rd lowest total of his career, which I find very interesting. The 6-8 49ers are having quite the letdown season after appearing in last year's Super Bowl, but a lot of that has been about injuries, and they're still a dangerous team week to week. That's part of why Miami's only a 1-point home favorite here. But the 6-8 Dolphins have also underachieved. Still, there could be some good offensive play on display here. For the Dolphins, wide receiver Tyreek Hill remains one to watch. He sparked some controversy this week with tweets perhaps showing unhappiness, and he only caught 2 catches for 36 yards last week against Houston. But he has 805 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns this season. Can he break out against the 49ers? Meanwhile, for San Francisco, tight end George Kittle continues to be their receiving leader, posting 861 yards and 8 touchdowns this season. As I mentioned before, Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill is averaging 12 yards per reception this season, which is on pace for the 3rd lowest total in his career. Improving on that mark could prove difficult against a Niner defense that has been stingy with big plays in the second part of the season. Since week 8, San Francisco has given up only 10 pass plays of 20-plus yards, fewest in the NFL, and is giving up 9.3 yards per reception, which is second lowest in that span. With Isaac Guerendo doubtful to play Sunday, the 49ers are presented with a difficult matchup against one of the NFL's top run defenses. The Dolphins have allowed only one of their last 8 opponents to crack 100 rushing yards, and that was the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving night. In fact, Miami has given up an NFL best 83 rushing yards a game since losing to Green Bay. San Francisco might have to rely more on quarterback Brock Purdy, whose breakout game came against the Miami Dolphins in 2022. Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa has the 4th most passing touchdowns, 13, and the 3rd most passing yards, 1,704, in the NFL since returning from concussion in Week 10. The Dolphins will be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss after the Chargers' Thursday night win over Denver last night. The 49ers will miss the playoffs with a loss or be eliminated by 7 other scenarios involving wins by other NFC teams. Slight FPI for the San Francisco 49ers, 54% going with San Francisco. But then again, there's also rumblings going on about the Dolphins could possibly be without Tyreek Hill and or Jalen Waddle. If that's the case, that is that I was actually going to go with Miami to win this, but now I might have to go with San Francisco here, and because if you don't have Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, I don't like Miami's chances. I really don't. So I am going to actually go with the San Francisco 49ers to win this game. My final score, I'm going to go 24-21. San Francisco steals one in Miami. So there isn't much more to say here. Michael Bullock, our number 3 game of the week. Major implications for both teams. It's basically a must-win for both teams.
Yeah, like you said, it's a must-win for both teams. I mean, neither one of them could afford a loss, but unfortunately, only one of them will win and one of them will lose. From what I heard, Jalen Waddle is doubtful, so it looks like he may not be able to go. And, of course, Tyreek Hill right now is questionable, so we'll see what happens. But I think because of these injuries, I am going to reluctantly go with the San Francisco 49ers to win this one, and they keep their playoff hopes alive. So give me the San Francisco 49ers to win this one. So it's on to Sunday Night Football.
That's right. Sunday Night Football on NBC. 8:20 p.m. over on NBC and Peacock. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers squaring off against the Dallas Cowboys. AT&T Stadium, Jerry World in Arlington. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark. Tampa Bay opening up as a 4-point favorite. Dallas leads the all-time regular season series 13-6. Last time they met was 2022. Oh, it was week 1 of the 2022 season in Dallas on a Sunday night. And Tampa Bay won that game 19-3. Cowboys last beat the Buccaneers in the wild card playoff in January of 2023. They went into Tampa Bay and beat the Bucs 31-14. Their last home win against Tampa was 2018. That was a 27-20 final. Another playoff implication game here, Bullock. For Tampa, they control their own destiny when it comes to the NFC South. Dallas, if Dallas loses or if Washington wins, Dallas is out.
Yeah, it's another big game for both sides. Dallas needs to win to keep their playoff hopes alive, while Tampa needs to win not only to, of course, keep their playoff hopes alive, but also, of course, to win the South. So we'll see what happens. So, but I'm gonna go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this one. So it's yours for you.
Okay. There is not a huge amount of luster to this one compared to many Sunday Night Football matchups, with 8-6 Tampa Bay at 6-8 Dallas. But the Bucs are at least leading the NFC South, and they're only 1 win clear of the 7-7 Atlanta Falcons. So this game does matter. They're 4-point road favorites here. For the Bucs, quarterback Baker Mayfield has been somewhat up and down this year, but he's coming off a highly efficient showing in a win over the LA Chargers, where he threw for 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception, and an 81% completion mark. For the Cowboys, running back Rico Dowdle had 149 yards on 25 carries in a win last Sunday at Carolina, and he has 880 rushing yards and a touchdown this season. Okay, one moment. Okay. Considering what the Bucs did as an offense in a 40-17 victory at the Chargers, the timing on this could not be better. The Bucs run game has dramatically improved from last in the league last season to now 4th overall at 144 yards a game. The Cowboys are giving up 136 rushing yards a game, 4th worst in the league, and have surrendered 43 total touchdowns as a defense, third most in the league. If the Cowboys lose, it would be their 7th loss of the season at AT&T Stadium, their most since 2015. They also have a chance to match the franchise record for most home losses in a season when they went 0-8 at the old Texas Stadium all the way back in 1989. All of this has come after they won 16 straight regular season games at home from 2022 to 2023. To avoid a loss, the defense will have to slow down the number 4 scoring offense in the league at almost 29 points a game. A loss for the Cowboys would clinch their first losing season since coach Mike McCarthy went 6-10 in his first year in 2020. They have not had multiple losing seasons under a single head coach since going 5-11 in 3 straight seasons from 2000 to 2002 with then coach Dave Campo. The Buccaneers' chances to win the NFC South increased to 93% with a win, but would fall to 68% with a loss. The Cowboys would be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss or a Washington win over Philadelphia. 70% FPI for Tampa Bay. That's 70% going with Tampa Bay. And I'm going with Tampa Bay to win this game as well. 35-21 Tampa Bay over Dallas on Sunday night. 1 game left, and that is Monday Night Football over on ABC and ESPN at 8:15, and it will feature the New Orleans Saints squaring off against the Green Bay Packers from the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters. Green Bay opening up, just like Buffalo, Green Bay opening up as a 14-point favorite against New Orleans. Series history. The series history favors the Green Bay Packers 18-10. They met in Green Bay last year, and Green Bay won that game 18-17. The Saints have not won at Lambeau since 2017. That was a 26-17 final. So let's break it down when it comes to our final game of the week. This is not the world's best Monday Night Football matchup, with the Saints entering at just 5-9, but the 10-4 Packers are solid, and they have playoff positioning to play for. And they're 2 touchdown home favorites here. For the Saints, a lot of the questions are about the quarterback position. Whether quarterback Derek Carr may or may not be able to go. If he can't play, that means they're turning to Spencer Rattler again. Rattler was not great in limited action this year, throwing for just 706 yards and 2 touchdowns with 2 picks across 4 games and just a 57.5% completion mark. Against Green Bay, any quarterback will have to watch out for ball-hawking safety Xavier McKinney, who has 7 picks this year. The Saints have played only 18 games at 32 degrees or below at kickoff. They have won the last 3, including a game against Cleveland in 2022 when it was only 6 degrees. But New Orleans does not have Taysom Hill, the leading rusher from that last win, and might not have Alvin Kamara, who is dealing with a groin injury. The Saints also could start rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler, since Derek Carr has been out because of a fractured hand. It's a small sample size, but Packers quarterback Jordan Love has shown no issues when it comes to playing in cold weather games. He is 2-0 as Green Bay starter when the temperature is 32 degrees or lower, which helps as it could be snowing Monday night. When it comes to late season games overall, Coach Matt LaFleur also has the best December-January record in the NFL since 2019, a record of 23-5. The Packers are averaging 6.6 yards after the catch per reception this season, which is 3rd in the NFL. Saints defense is giving up 6.2 yards after the catch per reception this season, 3rd highest in the NFL. The Packers can secure their spot as the 3rd NFC North team in the playoffs through multiple scenarios. The easiest path is by winning Monday night. Otherwise, Green Bay will need a Falcon loss to the Giants to pair with either a loss by the Rams at the Jets or the Seahawks at home against the Vikings. Biggest FPI of the week, 84% going with the Green Bay Packers, and I'm going with the Green Bay Packers to win this game as well. 27-10, Green Bay all over New Orleans at the frozen tundra on Monday night. Green Bay wins. Nothing left to say except take us home, Bullock.
Yeah, I'm taking it home with the Green Bay Packers. They're gonna handle their business with the Saints. So there's really nothing more to say except let's put a bow on this for you.
And we will indeed put the bow on this Week 16 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We'll be back with you again tomorrow night at 10:30 over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95, for the Cerebral Smack Talk, where we will have NXT and Friday Night SmackDown. And then on Monday night, and now we have some very exciting content coming for you folks. It all starts on Monday night with a special edition of Ridiculously Raw. Yes, we will have our review of Monday Night Raw as always, but instead of the Tony's Take, we are going to be previewing 3 NFL games. We're going to preview the 2 Christmas Day games, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans. And we will also preview Thursday Night Football, which will be the final Thursday Night Football game of this season, the Seattle Seahawks and the Chicago Bears. No show on Tuesday, no show on Wednesday, obviously, because of Christmas Eve and Christmas, respectively. Thursday night, we will have our TXN Sports World Year in Review special on Thursday night. Myself, Michael Bullock, and good old MF Michael Fletcher, we will share our favorite moments in the world of sports in 2024. We are most assuredly going to have a lot of favorite moments, if you know what I mean. And in addition to that, we will also preview the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. And then 1 week from tonight, the Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We'll do a quick recap of the Christmas games as well as the Thursday night game with Seattle and Chicago. And we will also preview the games of the remaining games of week number 17. Notable games on the Week 17 docket outside of the obvious games, the Denver Broncos and the Cincinnati Bengals, the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams, the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, the Atlanta Falcons and the Washington Commanders, and an NFC Championship rematch between the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. But we'll get into all of it next week. And then on Saturday, December 28th, it will be our Talking Wrestling TXN Year in Review special. That will be hosted by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We'll review our favorite moments in the world of professional wrestling in 2024. And we will hand out our year-end awards as well. So there's your exciting content coming up over this upcoming week. So with that being said, that'll do it for this. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on the MF's channel, Braceman 95, this is Anthony Florio here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, good old MF Michael Fletcher, and of course, always and forever, our First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up, Fortune Forest style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Saturday. And until tomorrow night, for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching the Week 16 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody. Bye.